Again in studio, this time about different form of code together with simple form of standards in life, but also health dimension. To understand simple forums together with code phobos, it's not easy, but also to figure it out the simple forum health category together with simple dough, but also simple Nivea creams. Algorithms in health are not easy, but also not simple to array different forms of CTD, which are different forms of containers when it comes to picture or photos. CTD, CSV are not simple, but of course also build better health. Not easy to understand, also various zip formats, but also simple D type, and you can also build HMAC together with Digest, of course, of some arbitrary to the D program function. To understand different forms of exception together with health, it's not easy. And also different forms of most simple interface. To build purity is not simple, but with some Nivea modeling possible. To understand the paths, but also studio paths, which have various dimensions, it's not easy, but also very difficult to build the math together with Nivea, also serving all the community. To build standard hats, of course, it's not easy for the female because they usually want more, much more from the head function. But of course, also men's are difficult sometimes. To build health and to understand the simple core function is not easy, especially if you have any company or you are matching with any company together with different forms of modeling type. To build some forms of Taoism, it's not simple because it's actually special sector of the health. And of course, without different forms of bears might be better health, but also to construct a much better and more pure face for many. Not to mess together with other company, but to build different forms of the attribute, but also recognize simple purity. Of course, it's not easy to understand different forms of exceptions, but also simple forms of conditions for millions of purity in face. Also to build for each purity, of course, that's $1, but also different forms of the type of ballots for different models to checking how much they still have and how much they can spend. Of course, they are also earning because they are models, but some are also supermodels. The health are some sort of an exceptions, but also in health, a lot of people sometimes even argue what's the right way, but of course there are different forms of conditions, what forum and signals to use to lead better social forums. The community, of course, trusts the code because the code is the navigation for many profile and it's not easy to understand different forms of surface, but also to understand complex forms together with simple and unique forms of platforms together with uniforms is extremely difficult. We usually mention Aquafresh for nice mouth and nothing more complex when it's come to simple standards. But usually the medicine is thinking about more strange and more psychological things that are far away from Aquafresh, so they are much more complex than me. We, of course, do not trust any form of health, but very limited functions, but also, of course, things that are actually used by millions of people around the world. But of course, if the world is Africa, the world is not simple. To understand different forms of arrays, but also uniforms with CTD, is actually quite difficult. And if you put this together with different decode, it's very difficult to build different codes of length. But also you can use different hubs and compilers. To understand the base of simple forum, it's not easy to sort different searching, but also to see different forms of the site for better licensing in health. To build lists is also not simple in medicine, but the most important is actually to build better function, but also better wallets for self. And of course, the standard for community.